What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fire Sports Takes podcast. Today we have some more futures. This will be the last episode of NFL futures. Tomorrow's episode will be college football predictions, college football playoff predictions, college football futures, and then in 2 weeks we will have full NFL predictions, futures, playoff predictions, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl matchup. We got a lot to cover over the next few weeks. I will be leaving and going to Connecticut for my friend Luke Giaquinto. Shout out Luke Giaquinto's engagement party. So over the next few days, you won't be hearing a lot from me on socials. I won't be live on TikTok. I haven't been live on TikTok in a few days. I'm going to spam record a bunch of content today and tomorrow. But I promise you guys, and I can promise you this, if there's one thing that's true, the second I get back from Connecticut, you are about to see the content factory of a lifetime coming from this side of the camera. I'm talking about daily TikTok lives. I'm talking about daily videos on TikTok. Not just one, not just two, not just three. We're talking 10 a day, just spamming the For You page, spamming your IG Reels, spamming your YouTube Shorts, combined with all of these YouTube videos. I've had some unhealthy thoughts, maybe even healthy thoughts actually, about quitting all of my jobs, liquidating my portfolio, and just locking in for a whole year. Content, live stream this, live stream there, live stream this, YouTube video here, content, just spamming the For You page. And boy, are we close to doing that. As every day goes by, I just want to just pull the plug and, as they say, burn the boats. And ladies and gentlemen, we might be there. And I feel like over this last summer, I've just been mailing in these episodes, not giving it all my 100% because I'm just spent. But we've gotten to a point where the bare minimum, the baseline, has become the standard, and the standard should not be the bare minimum. The standard should not be the baseline. So I'm prepared to dive in and give you guys everything I have. But I will tell you this: I am locked in on these player props. And last year we got hosed with the player prop department. Injuries. Also, I bet on Michael Penix. That's a shame on me, pie on my face. But I think looking at the passing market today, I think there are some real chances for some nasty value. Nasty value across the board. We are spreading them around. I also have my favorite win totals and some more long shot-ish division winners and championship and conference winners. So we have a lot to get into today. As far as training camp news goes, I've not been tapped in. I'll tell you what, the preseason has sucked. I hate the preseason. I know people like that there's football back on the screen. I like highlights here and there. I like watching my one drive of the Jets starters, and Geno Smith went 7 for 7 right down the fucking field, right down your face, Pittsburgh. Jets offensive line looks nasty. I'm actually excited to watch this Jets offense, and I think Garrett Wilson could be a sneaky offensive player of the year candidate because every single day at training camp, he's making plays. He is making plays. He is the most underrated receiver now. I'm not going to go on a whole Garrett Wilson tangent. We also have Hot Take Tuesday fan submission. And it's really just one take by my good friend Ian McElhenney, and we'll get into that later on as well. And then I have another take about a certain Alabama head coach that I talked about on yesterday's episode. So we will lock that in. But anyway, we have, oh, wait a minute. Big Ten to bar NFL. Big Ten won't allow players to return from the NFL. Yeah, that's good. That should be common sense. 25% of NFL players in sample had CTE. That's not ideal. So that's what's new in the NFL today. But let's talk about these passing props, ladies and gentlemen, because there are some real opportunities to exploit Vegas here. And let's start and circle back to my friend Trevor Lawrence, who I talked about on yesterday's episode when I broke down the AFC South. Go check that out. His passing yard line is at 3,774.5. 3,775 passing yards is the number for Trevor Lawrence, who is now in year 2 with the Liam Cohen system. He's had 4,000 yards every single season he's been healthy, besides his rookie season where Urban Meyer was his head coach. Year 2 in this offense, behind a running game, not behind a running game, but with a running game that was not exactly efficient last year. They ranked 24th in rushing efficiency, yards per carry, and they lose Travis Etienne, Bishal Tutin, Chris Rodriguez. I do not understand the Bishal Tutin glaze. It feels an awfully lot like, was it Zach Moss it wasn't Zach Moss for the Raiders a year ago. I forget who it was on the Raiders a few years ago. To be fair, the Raiders offense is not as good as the Jags offense. I forget who the player was, but it feels like Kenyon Drake with the Cardinals back in like 2020, was it 2019? It feels like we're forcing this Bishal Tutin guy down our throats. And I understand Liam Cohen's had a good track record of producing quality running back play. quality running back production. But I also think Bucky Irving and Travis Etienne are way better football players than Beisel Toon, who was 3.7 yards per carry last season, barely made guys miss. He looked easy to tackle. He looked like players got him down. He doesn't exactly run through arm tackles. Now, he does do good in open space in terms of putting a foot in the ground and getting one cut and go, and he does have good burst, but I just don't think he's that good. This run game was not that good last year, and the offensive line, they have pretty solid tackles, but the interior is questionable. So I don't believe in this run game a whole lot in Jacksonville, which bodes well for Trevor Lawrence's passing total. And again, he's gone over 4,000 yards every single season he's been healthy. I think Parker Washington, Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers is a really, really solid trio of pass catchers. I think he goes over this total. I also like having a couple of player props that go hand in hand with one another. Because I took Parker Washington's over on his receiving total. I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence's over on his passing yards as well. So it's kind of like having a stack in fantasy, but really it's just for my bank account. So I like Trevor Lawrence over his passing yardage number this year. He's a really solid quarterback who was on a tear in the back half of last season. The thing with T-Law, though, is he can't put together a full, complete season. Like, I think it was 2023. He started off really hot. It tapered off. Last year, he started off really cooked, became an MVP finalist, had 22 touchdowns and 4 interceptions over the last 5 games against some really good defenses. Like, I don't understand. I've talked about this game a lot, but Jacksonville in like week 15 went into Mile High and beat the fucking brakes off the Denver Broncos. Beat the brakes off them. And it was playoff atmosphere in Mile High, two of the best teams in the AFC. And they were not phased. I believe in this Jacksonville Jaguars team. I believe in Liam Cohen. I believe in Trevor Lawrence. This is not the last time we'll talk about Trevor Lawrence in this segment. Justin Herbert over 3,650 passing yards. This is less about Justin Herbert because we all know what he's talented. Anybody with eyes can see that Justin Herbert is talented, and it's more about Mike McDaniel. The offensive line also needs to stay healthy, and they just lost Tyler Biadasz. That's not ideal. But you keep Slater, you keep Alt up, and I think they have a really solid chance of going over this number. And Herbert's gone over this total every single year in the league besides one. What are we talking about here? I am investing in an offensive system that we've seen be incredibly, incredibly productive with Tua Tagovailoa at the helm. And I would argue Tua Tagovailoa did have a better supporting cast. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert even had a really few productive, efficient years in Miami. But Justin Herbert's way better than Tua Tagovailoa. And now he doesn't have Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. I do believe in Ladd McConkey. I believe a little bit in QJ as a wide receiver too. I believe a whole lot in Omari and Hampton. I think they're going to have one of the better run games in the NFL. So this is just me investing in an offensive scheme, in an offensive system, and an offensive coach that we have seen been incredibly productive for multiple seasons, despite lackluster QB play, and Mike McDaniel is getting the best quarterback he's ever gotten in his entire career as an offensive coordinator or offensive play caller. On top of that, I think the loss of Jesse Minter makes this Chargers defense a little bit worse because when Herbert was throwing for 5,000 yards, 4,500 yards, he was throwing the ball almost 100 times more per season because those Chargers defenses just weren't that great. Now the Chargers defense is one of the best in the NFL. It's been a top 10 scoring defense back-to-back seasons. They do have really good players. I am interested to see how their cornerback room looks this season because Jesse Minter kind of squeezed the best cornerback play, safety play, not Derwin James excluded, best secondary play without having really a lot of stars or a great supporting cast. Because of the scheme, because of how good of a defensive coach he was. Now, I think their front seven is incredibly solid. Khalil Mack, Akeem Mesidor, Tuli Tuipulotu, Tahir Tart, Dalvin Tomlinson, Diane Henley. That's one of the best front sevens in the NFL. I mean, Khalil Mack still produces at a really, really high level. It's just in a more situational role. And then Akeem Mesidor was as good as Ruben Bain was last year at Miami. Like, they were both dominant forces. And Tahir Tart, Dalvin Tomlinson, pretty good 1-2 punch on the interior. Tuli Tuipulotu's had more sacks every single season he's been in the league. He was 7th in the NFL in sacks last year. I think their defensive line is good. That'll bail out the secondary a little bit. And obviously, I think the defense is still going to be good. But how good will it be as good as it was the past 2 seasons with Jesse Minter, who I think was the best head coaching candidate available in this cycle, and he went to Baltimore. So we will see. I think even if their defense is still really solid and Herbert doesn't throw the ball 600 times, he'll go over this total because he did it last year and he threw the ball 500 times. This is not I believe in Herbert, obviously, but I'm just investing in Mike McDaniel. That's what this is. I invested in Mike McDaniel when it came to Omari and Hampton, and I'm investing in Mike McDaniel when it comes to Justin Herbert's passing total. So we have so far, like, it's a little bit nerve-wracking because I'm putting a lot of my eggs in one basket when it comes to these. They're investments. Like, these are their bets, but they're also, like, I'm investing money in the Chargers offense. I'm investing money in the Jaguars offense. I'm totally comfortable doing that because I believe in Trevor Lawrence, I believe in Justin Herbert, and I believe in both of those offensive coaches and play callers. And I'm comfortable doing that. Now, this next one has nothing to do with the offensive play caller and everything to do with how underrated this player is, with how much of a dog this fucking player is, and how good his supporting cast is. And that is Joe fucking Burrow. If this guy could just stay healthy, this is a lock. This is the freest money you'll ever make in your entire life. If you tell me right now, yes, Joe Burrow will be healthy the entire season, I would liquidate my entire Roth IRA, my entire brokerage account, and put it all on Joe Burrow to match this number. And that is 4,000 passing yards. Every healthy season he's played, he's gone over it. He just needs to stay healthy, and this is a lot. Now, that is a big if, but it's kind of been 1 year healthy, 1 year not. 1 year healthy, 1 year not. And that's like an unpredictable pattern. That's more coincidence. It's not like it's just a coincidence. Okay, he's injury prone. Obviously, he gets banged up a lot. I think this offensive line is a little bit better. They bringing some guys in free agency. They attacked it in the draft a little bit. You have Armarius Mims just getting 1 year older. So I do like this offensive line a little bit better than years prior. And I do like the defense a lot. I do like the defense a lot more than years prior. And Joe Burrow doesn't need to throw the ball 600 times to get this total. He has one of the highest average depth of targets in the league. And that's going to be the case when you have fucking T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Air that bitch out, Joe. Not to mention, I think their run game is going to be really solid with Chase Brown. I'm just investing in this whole offense because of the playmakers and because of the fucking quarterback. And Joe Burrow, I've been on record. You guys know how much of a Joe Burrow guy I think he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL. I've had this take before. Hot Take Tuesday, Joe Burrow is this era's Tom Brady, not from the sense of the greatness, the championships, but because of the play style. Nobody navigated a pocket better in the history of the NFL since I've been alive than the way Tom Brady navigated the pocket. He wasn't mobile, but boy, was he elusive in the pocket. Joe Burrow mimics that incredibly, incredibly well. And he's had to because his offensive line has sucked. But his mobility in the pocket is what makes him so elite while being able to keep his eyes downfield. And obviously he's got a hose attached to the right side of his body. He's got a cannon, right? So I don't think Joe Burrow is Tom Brady, obviously, because he doesn't have the championships. But to be fair, he's never had a top 10 defense. And the only time he did have a really good defense, he played in a Super Bowl. Tom Brady never won a Super Bowl without a top 10 defense. But that's a conversation for another day. I'm just saying that Joe Burrow plays incredibly, incredibly similar to the way Tom Brady played the game of football, which is I'm going to manipulate you in the pocket. I'm going to get matchups I like, and I'm going to attack those matchups. And it helps, though, because he had Jamar Chase, and you're going to like that matchup 10 times out of 10. Tom Brady didn't always have Jamar Chase. I mean, he had Randy Moss. He had a Rob Gronkowski. So you could argue he had the best receiver of all time. He had the best tight end of all time. But Patriots fans will say, oh, he didn't have the greatest supporting cast. He had Julian Edelman, Wes Welker. He made it work with these guys, which is also true. But he also had Randy fucking Moss. He also had Rob Gronkowski. I mean, it's the best receiver, best tight end of all time. You could argue. Either way, Joe Burrow, 4,000 passing yards. Every single season he's played at least 15 games. He's hammered this total. So that's where I'm at. Joe Burrow, Herbert, Lawrence. Now, Jared Goff is the next name on this list. He needs 4,100 passing yards to match his number. He has the second best odds to lead the NFL in passing yards on a terrific offense. And the problem is with Goff a little bit that I saw is they play an incredibly, incredibly easy schedule. But good thing I'm a gambling addict because I remember when the Lions won 15 games, they were blowing the fucking doors off teams. They were covering every single fucking spread. And the spreads were getting out. 14-point spread, 17-point spread, cover. The Lions are not the type of team. Dan Campbell is not the type of coach to take his foot off the gas pedal. They keep it down 100%. They will decapitate teams. And that's why I feel confident in this 4,100 yard total, despite them having a really, really easy schedule. And we will circle back to the Lions later in today's episode. But he has the second best odds to lead the NFL in passing yards, but his total is only at 4,100. 4,100 isn't leading the NFL in passing yards. He's thrown for 4,500 yards 3 straight seasons. He's gone over 4,100 yards 4 straight seasons. This seems so unbelievably free. He's got a top 5 receiving duo in the NFL. I'm not as high on Jameson Williams or Amon-Ra St. Brown as a lot of other people are, although they do complement each other really, really well. Jameson Williams is one of the best deep threats in the league, obviously blazing speed on a straight line. And Amon-Ra is one of the better route runners in the NFL. Really good hands, underrated yak. And the scheme in general is still really solid, although we did see it drop off a little bit with the departure of Ben Johnson. But Dan Campbell's still an offensive mind. Dan Campbell's still an offensive coach. Dan Campbell knows what the fuck he's doing. And I think their offensive line upgraded a whole lot despite the injury to Cade Mays this offseason as well. Colton Miller, I think that's the right tackle they drafted out of Clemson. I think if he can be a starter on day one, their offensive line is back. So I do think that this, and Jared Goff threw for this number, 4,500 yards. He threw for 300 yards more than this number, 400 yards more than this number, with a bad offensive line last year that wasn't as good, with a 23rd ranked run game, which was not as good as it was a year prior, where it was the best run game in the league. So I think this is free fucking money as long as Jared Goff can stay healthy. And I don't understand how he would just regress out of nowhere. Like that makes no sense to me. The next guy, Baker Mayfield, over 3,500 or over 3,600 passing yards. He's gone over it 3 straight seasons. He did it last year without a shoulder. And I don't know if I trust this offense as much as I did a year ago. I don't know. They do have a pretty solid offensive line. Tristan Wirfs, Luke Goedeke, Cody Mauch. They were all injured last year. I think the whole offensive, I don't think they played a single game as a cohesive unit. Offensive line stays healthy. Bucky Irving's back. Hopefully, I love Bucky Irving. Kenneth Gainwell, good pass catching back. Mecca Buka, Chris Godwin. I mean, that's pretty solid. I feel like it's incredibly underrated. I think Jalen McMillan suffered another injury. I'm not sure on that. Don't sleep on Ted Hurst now. Rookie from Georgia Southern. 4th rounder, wide receiver, really good combine numbers, really good measurables. Didn't play the greatest comp, but he played Vanderbilt. He went off. He played Alabama. He went off. So he did it against some good SEC comp, and Vanderbilt is good comp. They were a good comp last year. 1,000 yards back-to-back seasons. Don't sleep on Ted Hurst in this receiving room as well. So I think they've got a really good group of receivers. I believe in Emeka Egbuka a lot. I think Baker Mayfield, 3,600 yards in a contract year is free fucking money. This guy had 4,000 yards. He led the NFL in passing touchdowns 2 years ago. They don't want to give him a contract? You're not going to give Baker Mayfield a contract? Are you fucking kidding me, Tampa? You're not going to give Baker Mayfield a contract? And he's not even going to argue about it. He's like, all right, I'm going to show you. Yeah, that's the guy I'm betting on 10 times out of fucking 10. And I know you don't got to bet with your feelings. You got to bet with your brains. Well, the brains and the feelings are matching up here. Baker Mayfield's not a guy you want to fucking get on his bad side. Give him a chip on his shoulder for the whole season. See what the fuck happens. They're not extending him? Okay, bet. Watch him cook. Lock 3,600 yards as long as he stays healthy. And he was injured last year, still played and went over this total without a shoulder, without his starting left tackle, without his starting right tackle, without his starting right guard. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin dealt with injuries, and he still went over this number. Baker Mayfield, 3,600 yards is free. Some other things I want to talk about, but I'm not betting on. I thought it was really interesting that Tyler Shough has better odds to lead the NFL in passing yards than Caleb Williams, Josh Allen, Bo Nix, Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson. Those are some good names. Tyler Shough has better odds to be the league leader in passing than Caleb Williams, Josh Allen, Bo Nix, Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson. There's 2 MVPs in the cover of fucking Madden on there, by the way. So that says a lot about what Vegas thinks the Saints offense is going to be next season. I do like Tyler Shough there a whole lot. That is interesting to me. And I'm a Tyler Shough guy. I've been a Tyler Shough guy for a really, really long time. I like this. I like that his odds are where they are. And obviously, like, that's not like a long list of names. Like Josh Allen never has really high passing yardage totals. Lamar Jackson never has really high passing yards totals. Sam Darnold's done it. Bo Nix has more passing yards than Caleb, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and all those guys. Like, combined in their careers, and he got drafted the same year. So, like, I'm not like that. Those aren't some really big names in terms of passing yards total. Like, they don't put up big numbers in terms of their passing yards, especially Josh and Lamar, who use their legs a lot. But I thought it's really interesting that Tyler Shough's odds for where could he rank this season in passing yards is right around there with some really, really big proven franchise quarterback names, is all I'm saying. There's a Super Bowl champ, the cover of Madden, and 3 MVPs. That's some good company for Tyler Shough name to be in the gambling markets. Passing touchdowns, not a whole lot. I think touchdowns are really, really volatile. It's not as reliable as passing yards, but I'll tell you this right fucking now. You don't think Patrick Mahomes is throwing for 25 fucking touchdowns? What are we doing? That is free. The freest money you're ever going to fucking see. Okay? Cyrus Allen, rookie, dog. Rashee Rice, not in jail. He's a dog. Xavier Worthy, hopefully not injured. Even if he is, who gives a fuck? Tyquan Thornton's a good Walmart version of him. Patrick Mahomes with a run game. Never had a 1,000-yard rusher. He hasn't had a 1,000-yard rusher receiver in 3 seasons. He's about to have probably both of those. Because if Rashee Rice plays the whole season, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. If Kenneth Walker plays the whole season, he's a 1,000-yard rusher. And you don't think this offense is going to be better? He has never not thrown for 25 touchdowns in a season as a starter where he played the full year. He threw 22 in 14 games last year, 13 games last year. Patrick Mahomes to throw for 25 touchdowns at minus 105 is the freest bet of this NFL season. I'm so confused where the Patrick Mahomes fatigue is coming in. ACL injuries don't fucking matter anymore. Have you seen the brace this guy's wearing? It's literally fucking bionic. He's got a bionic knee attached to his normal knee, and and remember when he won a Super Bowl with a bad ankle? This guy's tough as nails. He still has a cannon. I saw somebody say that, like, I think it was one of those clowns on Fox Sports, whether it was Colin Cowherd, definitely wasn't Nick Wright, because he's a Mahomes Glazer. He was like, yeah, Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the fifth strongest arm in the league. What the fuck are we talking about? Patrick Mahomes has the strongest arm in the league. The Patrick Mahomes fatigue is ridiculous. The only name you can throw up there with Mahomes is Josh fucking Allen. And Caleb has a cannon. There are a few. Cam Ward has a cannon. There's definitely guys that have it. Jared Goff's got an underrated cannon. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are the two strongest fucking arms in the league. I don't want to hear otherwise. Justin Herbert's in that conversation, maybe. But it's Mahomes, and now those guys he throws the ball fucking 90 yards. He threw the ball out of the stadium. Like, what are we talking? It's Patrick Mahomes. He's still a fucking hose, dude. 25 touchdowns for the 3-time MVP, Super Bowl MVP, 2-time MVP. What the fuck is that number? That is a joke. That is a joke. That's free. Same thing with Joe Burrow. If you can tell me Patrick Mahomes will be healthy, I will liquidate every single share of NVIDIA I own. Every single share I own of SpaceX and drop it right here. Patrick Mahomes, 25 touchdowns. I'm also taking him at a half unit plus 600 to throw for 35 touchdowns because that is absolutely worth a sprinkle. What are we doing with some of these lines, Vegas? They just want me to win money. That seems so incredibly free to me. I don't understand. All right. Now, let's talk about some other little bets that I have sprinkled in. And this is the end. These are all the futures that I've done. So running back future, receiver future, this passing episode, and then these bets right here. The best win total on the board for the 2026 NFL season is the Detroit Lions win total at 10.5. 11 wins is more than doable. I think they have a top 3 edge rusher in Aiden Hutchinson. They have a top 2 linebacker in Jack Campbell. They have a top 5 safety in Brian Branch. They also have some really other solid edge rushers and interior defensive linemen. We're talking Aleem McNeil. The corners are the issue with this Lions team. Keith Abney from Arizona State, who is a dog. He had like a 50% passer rating allowed when targeted or something ridiculous last year at Arizona State. And DJ Reed, who's an underrated player in his own right. Both those guys are 5'9". That sucks. You can't have 2 5'9" receivers. I'm sorry. But maybe it works. And maybe there's like a little bit of scrappiness. There's a little bit of an edge because both those guys have scrappiness, edge, and an edge dogness to them. Shout out DJ. DJ Reed was as productive as Sauce Gardner when Sauce Gardner had back-to-back first-team All-Pros his rookie year and his second year. DJ Reed was as productive as Sauce, and he got targeted more. And then DJ Reed fell off a little bit after Bob Saleh's departure. He got cooked a little bit last year in Detroit, but he is still a really, really underrated player. And Keith Abney, I don't know if that either of those guys are legit CB1s at 5'9", 5'10". That's the only problem with this Detroit Lions team. But 11 wins on a 4th place schedule, and the 2 divisions they play are the AFC East and the NFC South. That is free. So because they're on a 4th place schedule, that gives them such an advantage in this division because they get to play the Cardinals, the Titans, the Giants. That's a joke. So when you have the Bears, they're going to have to play the Seahawks. They're going to have to play the Jaguars, and they're going to have to play, what's the other team? What's the other division I said? The Eagles. Like, that is such an advantage for them to win the division, number 1. Number 2, 4th place schedule. So you got those 3 games right there. Cardinals, Titans, Giants. That's 3 easy wins. 3 easy wins, I think. I mean, the Titans could be a little bit frisky. I think that's 3 easy wins. The Giants had taken it to overtime last year with Jameis. Don't care. 3 easy wins. I think there's 2 free wins in the AFC East. Dolphins, Jets. And I'm going to be generous and say that there's only 2 free wins in the NFC South. That puts us at 7 wins already. And that's being generous. I think they could sweep the NFC South. So that's 7 wins already. So in order for them to get this total, we're looking at 4 more wins between the Bills, the Patriots, 2 more NFC South wins, and then there's 6 divisional games. That's 10 games they need 4 wins out of. You don't think they're hitting that total? And that's just assuming they take care of business. They take care of business in the games they're going to be heavy favored. The Cardinals, the Titans, the Giants. They're winning 11 fucking games. It's the best offense in the NFL. They finished last in the division last year, but they had the highest point difference. Everybody's kind of fading Dan Campbell now all of a sudden. Everything's so cyclical. Dan Campbell's not good. They won 2 games. Okay, Dan Campbell's building something. Oh my God, Dan Campbell's the greatest thing since sliced bread. They missed the playoffs by 1 game. Oh, Dan Campbell fucking sucks. What? Dan Campbell turned the Detroit Lions into a team that was up by 14 in the NFC Championship game, looking like they're about to play the fucking Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions, that had the best running back in league history, didn't sniff the playoffs, had the best wide receiver in league history, didn't sniff the playoffs, have wasted Matthew Stafford's career, were a perennial garbage dumpster fire dog shit franchise, and Dan Campbell turned this team around, this franchise around, in 4 seasons. And now all of a sudden, because they missed the playoffs, despite having the highest point difference in their division, in a division that was separated by 2 games, we're writing off the Detroit Lions? That is the dumbest thing I have ever seen. They know how to draft. They know how to develop players. I think they have 3 players on the defensive side of the ball that are top 5 in their positions, at least top 5. You could argue top 3 with some of them. I think Brian Branch is a healthy season away from being in Derwin James, Kyle Hamilton territory. I think Jack Campbell's the best linebacker in the NFL as long as Fred Warner stays on the injury reserve, and he can't stay healthy. And then Aiden Hutchinson was on pace to win Defensive Player of the Year, tears his ACL, comes back, leads the NFL in pressures, depending on which metric, which stat sheet you look at. So I think this defense can be solid. Their offense, they have the best supporting cast for any quarterback in the NFL, besides maybe Joe Burrow. And the offensive line in Cincinnati sucks compared to the offensive line in Detroit. They're winning 11 games, especially on this easy-ass schedule. Now, I also wanted to take the Vikings win total, but I didn't because I think that contradicts itself a little bit, because why would I take the win total, like the over win total on 2 teams that play each other twice? That's just not smart. I think that's illogical. But what I did do is take the Vikings at half a unit at plus 510 to win the division. Now, those 2 things, like the Lions winning 11 games and the Vikings winning the division, do contradict themselves a little bit. That's why it's only a half unit play on the Vikings winning the division. But I think it's terrific value at plus 510. They have the best defense in the division, and I think they have the second best supporting cast in the division. I'm not high on the Packers at all this season. Not at all. There's so much uncertainty on the offensive line. There's so much uncertainty in their receiving room. And their defense was not good after Micah Parsons got hurt. They have no presence on the interior. They just lost Quay Walker. And their secondary, Carrington Valentine and Keyshawn Nixon, they have really good. Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams, nasty safety duo. But still, I don't trust their corners that much. I don't trust their pass rush outside of Micah Parsons. And who knows when he comes back. I don't like the Packers a lot this year. I think the Bears defense is going to be dog shit. I think they have one of the most overrated weapons groups in the NFL right now. Not even overrated, just unproven, but everybody talks about them like they're a lock to be good. I do believe in Ben Johnson. I'm not trying to write off the Bears. That's not what I'm doing. I just think they have a really tough schedule. They lost a lot of turnovers on the defensive side of the ball. They don't really have any good edge rushers. Rome Odunze and Luther Burden are still relatively unproven. I love Colson Love, and I think DeAndre Swift's an underrated back. I think their offensive line is going to be really good. And Caleb Williams is a winner. He's a dog. He's clutch as fuck. And year 2 in this Ben Johnson offense could be scary. So I'm not discrediting the Bears, but I think on paper, the Lions and Vikings have the best rosters in the division, especially defensively. The Vikings have the best defense in this. I think this Vikings defense could be a top 5 unit. I think every addition they made this offseason has been a home run addition. I love the Jacoby Thomas pick from Miami. I love the Jack Galde pick because they have a trio of linebackers. Eric Kendrick, I think it's Eric Kendricks, one of the best blitzing. He had like 5 sacks last year, one of the best blitzing linebackers in the NFL. Blake Cashman, Jack Galde. Blake Cashman, elite against the run. Jack Galde, elite against the run and against the pass. One of the best pass coverage linebackers besides the guy from Pittsburgh. I think Keon Lewis was his name. I think he went to the Dolphins like the 5th round. Either way, one of the best pass coverage backs. Only missed 10% of the tackles his entire 4-year career in college. And Blake Cashman as well. One of the best run stuffers, one of the most underrated red dot guys in the league. Blue dot guy, whatever it is. Green dot guys in the NFL. Their corners are a little sus, but I think James Pierre is an upgrade over what they had there last year. I'm not Cam Bynum. I always get these 2 guys confused. Cam Bynum's on the Colts, and then, oh my gosh, the safety in Minnesota. Whatever, it doesn't matter. They have what? No, it does matter. I need to look it up. Damn, I was doing so good. It's Cam Bynum. That's the guy on the Colts, though. Cam Bynum's on the Colts. Bear with me here for a second, chat. I got to pull up the Minnesota Vikings depth chart because this is going to drive me up a wall if I can't remember this safety's name. Bear with me, chat. Bear with me. Maybe it'll come to me before I look. It's not coming to me. Let's just expedite the process here. Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy, Cam Bynum. Get those guys confused all the time. It says he's a nickel back here. I thought he was like a slot safety type of player, like a Kyle Hamilton Nicky Manwari type of guy that roams around the box. That's what I thought anyway. Either way, Byron Murphy. And then we forget about Dallas Turner. This guy, 2 years in the league, 10 sacks last year. He's 22 years old. He's only 22. 10 sacks last year. I think he could have some elite sack production. I think that's why they were so comfortable moving off of Jonathan Grenard. They bring in not only Dominique Orange from Iowa State, who's really solid, proven run stuffer in the middle of that defense in the Big 12 last season, but Caleb Banks is a freak athlete that can line up all over the defensive line. Jalen Redmond's one of the most underrated defensive linemen in the league. Andrew Van Ginkel is a playmaker. They have such a good front seven, and Brian Flores is the best defensive play caller in the NFL. He is the best defensive play caller in the NFL. And every move that they did, each player had a specialty skill set. Even bringing Jamal Adams, even though he's injured. Each player they drafted has a skill set that Brian Flores can deploy in this defense that can just be a nightmare for quarterbacks. So I think the Vikings are going to have the best defense in the NFL. We're talking about their offense now. They have one of the best offensive lines if they can stay healthy. Jordan Addison, Jawan Jennings, Justin Jefferson is disgusting. And I think Kyler Murray's got some football left in him. I really do. So this is very contingent on Kyler Murray, but I think the Vikings at plus 510 is definitely worth a half unit or maybe even a quarter unit sprinkle to win the division, win the NFC North. They won 14 games a year ago. And then finally, the Houston Texans to win the AFC at plus 850. Best defense in the conference. They make upgrades all over the offensive line. They won 12 games last year. I think CJ Stroud can bounce back. I think he will bounce back. I love CJ Stroud. I'm not done with him at all. So I think the Houston Texans to win the AFC at plus 850 is some terrific value as well. And that will do it for the best future bets for this season. Your win totals, your win totals, and your conference and division winners. The NFC, I mean, I'm not going to bet you could just bet the Rams at plus 250. I feel like that's a pretty reasonable thing to do. I don't think there's any sneaky value. I really think it's a 2-horse race in that conference, unless the Lions come out of nowhere. Not really come out of nowhere, but I don't think the Lions are good enough to beat the Seahawks or the Rams. I don't think there's anybody really good enough to beat the Rams unless there's an injury or a Matthew Stafford regression. So I think the NFC. Here's what I had this conversation yesterday. The NFC is the harder division to come out of. Like if the Cowboys were in the AFC, if the Cowboys were in the AFC, I could see them getting out of the AFC. I cannot see them getting out of the NFC because I can't see any team coming out of the NFC that's not the Rams besides maybe Seattle. So although the AFC has better teams, like the top 10 teams in the AFC are better than the top 10 teams in the NFC, the top 2 teams in the NFC are the best teams in the NFL. So I don't think there's like a chance for Dallas to get out of the NFC. But if they were in the AFC, I could see a world. But luckily they're not, so we don't have to deal with that. Hit that subscribe button. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you on the next episode of the Fire Sports Takes podcast. This season is going to be electric.